Hello, welcome to the Musée Franco-Américain de Blérancourt. So it's a place that's at first was a 17th century castle built at the beginning of the 17th century. It was transformed in the headquarters of an American committee during the First World War and is now a national museum dedicated to the relationship between France and United States all along during the 19th century and until the First World War and the Second World War. Okay, so this museum was created by Anne Morgan, the wealthiest probably daughter of anyone in the United States, because she was the daughter of a very wealthy banker, J.P. Morgan, the owner of the Titanic. She came here during the First World War and created the headquarters of a committee, an American committee that was dedicated to the help, like the first aid for the population, the civil population that were very impacted by the First World War. So this museum you can discover in this place, first gardens, but also a museum with many historical artifacts and art paintings and drawings and sculptures, American and French. And so it's a very interesting place where you can discover what the American did in this area to help the population. Okay, if you come to visit the museum, you're going to have the opportunity to have a marvelous lunch in this restaurant that's called Le Griffon, and it's very close by, and you have a marvelous view on the castle and the gardens. So come and you can spend the entire day here visiting the museum, the gardens, and having lunch at the Griffon. Okay, and we are now in the gardens, the Jardin du Nouveau Monde, in English, the Gardens of the New World. They were designed by American garden designers, two of them, and the other one was a French one that worked in the United States. So those three garden designers are Madison Cox, Mark Rutkin, and Michel Boulcourt. We are now inside the museum in an area that's dedicated to the values that share French and Americans. Especially during the independence war of the Americans, when the French came to the rescue of the Americans against the British. Lafayette and Rochambeau came to their help, and the Americans never forgot this. And you also have here the ideas that they shared, the values that they shared, especially in the Declaration of Independence of the Americans, and on the other side, the Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Declaration of Rights for men and citizens. Here is the reduced scale statue of the Statue of Liberty that's called the Liberty Enlightening the World. And you know that the French people paid for the huge statue that's in New York. And here the small one made by the same artist, Bartholdi. Okay, the most important part of this museum is just about Anne Morgan and the action that the American ladies did during the First World War and just after for reconstructing this area of the Aisne, Blérancourt and 5 other places around, because this area was completely destroyed. 90% of the buildings were destroyed, and the civil population was suffering a lot. Not anything to eat, to drink, no shelters, nothing. So they came here, and these two ladies, Anne Morgan and a friend, an American doctor, Anne Morgan, and they decided to just rebuild the place. And first they had to give the first aid to this population. So they collected money in the United States. They encouraged girls that had the driving license. Imagine people having driving license in the 1917. There were not many people unless they were very wealthy. And these ladies, 350 of them, came here to help and just created hospitals and schools and helped rebuild the place. They even created libraries for kids in every place here. Every village had its library. So these ladies did a lot, and they collected a lot of money in the United States, creating movies and pictures to help just American people realize how horrible the conditions were in this area. And it lasted until 1924, when the museum was created. We are now at the last part of the museum that shows the artistic relationship between France and the United States and explores like the art, like the American painters that came to France. Many colonies of American painters stayed in Brittany or in Normandy, and many were very well known in France or not. And here it is the only place where you can find these 19th and century paintings that are not very well known. And on the other side you have French painters that went to the United States and came back to France showing incredible landscapes that we have never seen in France, like huge buildings in New York or Niagara Falls, for example. So it's dedicated to these two parts, like the French going to the United States and the Americans coming to France. Okay, they're not only painters and sculptors that came here in France from the United States. There are also dancers like Louis Fuller, Isadora Duncan, and Josephine Baker that had a career in France, and they were very attached to the French people, and they danced in France and introduced a new kind of dance, like the modern dance, the contemporary dance. And you have in Blérancourt we have drawings and paintings and even sculptures and everything about those three dancers. So we explore the relationship, not only artistic one, but the cultural one, as the global relationship between the two countries. In conclusion, we were very happy to welcome any American visitor coming from anywhere in the United States to discover this unique museum that's really the place where you can see how friendly the French people are towards the American and how the Americans have loved this country. So you might discover artists that you don't know, especially American ones or French ones that you never heard of because they are not in your American museums. Here we have many things. It is a historical museum and an art museum and even splendid gardens that are very great, and you even have a great restaurant. So come and you'll be very welcome.